The evidence seems to indicate that you're watching Dolly Vision.
Chopping up Dolly pieces, dreaming real. True crime scene blast feel so unreal. YouTube madness like share, subscribe. Jack's on fire, burning the world's fire. Where's the baby missing shadows crawl? People whisper footsteps down the hall. Fingerprints of the dead, cold as stone. He's got the scoop, best around town known. Dolly Vision headlines, King the Beat. Truth unravels, crackling through the heat. Lost soul shouting, echoes in the night. Rock the truth while live on air light. Chopping up Dolly Vision's dreaming real. True crime scene blast feels so unreal. YouTube madness like share, subscribe. Jack's on fire, burning the world's fire. Where's the baby missing shadows crawl? People whisper footsteps down the hall. Fingerprints of the dead, cold as stone. He's got the scoop, best around town known. Dolly Vision headlines, King the Beat. Truth unravels, crackling through the heat. Lost soul shouting, echoes in the night. Rock the truth while live on air light.
What is up, YouTube? It is Dolly back in the house. All my late night people, it is very good to see you. So, last night we covered a lot of the protest that was going down in Portland with the riots, and of course, what was going on in Chicago. A lot of tear gas, a lot of people acting unruly, where it appears that, they tried to block Donald Trump from sending in National Guard. He was trying to call up the Oregon National Guard to come help keep the ICE facility safe there in Portland, okay? Because people have been gathering around it, out there fighting, screaming, blocking traffic, and blocking people from getting in and out of the ICE facility. So they had went to court to try to stop Donald Trump from sending in Portland National Guard. And they were successful, okay? They granted a 14-day stay, kind of, where they couldn't bring in the National Guard for 14 days. But Trump, being the president that he is, and, since he was blocked on calling in the National Guard from Portland, he called in the California National Guard. So he basically found a loophole in the system and went there and sent in the National Guard. The National Guard are on their way to Portland to make sure the streets are safe. Okay. Which I don't see where the problem with people with the fact that we want streets safe. We don't want you in the road. We don't want you blocking traffic. These things that are unruly. Now, listen, I don't have a problem in the world with a peaceful protest or you abiding by the law while you protest, permits, get your sign, get out there and, during normal hours. But, there's homes right there across from this ICE facility. And these people are basically at 3:00 in the morning screaming to the top of the lungs through bullhorns, not allowing children and people to get sleep that actually have to go to work. The problem with this is it's a lot of young people. When you look around in the crowd, you don't see immigrants in the crowd protesting, hey, we don't want to leave. You see a bunch of white college kids and a bunch of homeless ass people out there is what it appears to me. Now, this is just my opinion. So, of course, Trump said, hey, I'm sending these troops in. And now everybody wants to hold hands out there and sing Kumbaya because they know what's coming. They know the National Guard's coming. All that shit of blocking the road and all that is over. They're saying, you get out there blocking the roads now, your ass is going to get cracked upside the head and your ass is going to federal jail and you're going to sit in there as long as some people did on January 6th. People should have seen when they were locking up people that payback was coming. Okay. I mean, that's what it appears to me is you about to get some payback. You're about to find out what the federal government can really do to you when their wrath comes down on you. And it's not a good thing. Now, listen, people have been calling for New Scum and these people in Portland to be outed for a long time, right? Terrible people governing your states. We seen what happened during the wildfires in LA with the Bass lady. She was on vacation in like Kenya, didn't give two damns. They didn't fill up the water. Fire hydrants didn't even have no water. So today, the protests, believe it or not, have looked pretty peaceful because now they know it's too late. So they don't want the real police, the real law, the real enforcement to come down in Portland. The days of Chad and whatever Chomp and whatever weird ass names y'all had when y'all took over Portland, this is a different time. This is a different era. We have different people running the country. And we're not going to stand for that type of behavior no more, right? And it hurts these people so bad that, listen, you can cry all you want. It ain't changing anything, okay? Crying don't change anything. What changes things is getting out and voting. These people are out here crying about the laws and the immigration policies. These are the same people that didn't get up and go vote when they had the chance to vote for, I don't even remember who was that old man that was like had Alzheimer's. There's a dude, he had like Alzheimer's and there was some lady with him that looked like a man. They could have got out and voted for those people, but they didn't. But now that they're not having their way, they're crying and they're protesting. Now listen, the days of people assassinating people for their voice and burning cars and looting the streets and using everything just as an excuse to have a big ass party, right? Like we watched video and people were out there saying, hey, I just came out here to dance. My friends are out here. I'm just out here cleaning people up and we having a good old time. Which is it? Is it a party or are you protesting? That's the thing. These young people, they don't really give a damn about immigration. They just need a place to go raise hell and let off some steam. I understand it. I was young once too. You don't think I like throwing bricks through windows? Shit, when I was a young guy, that shit would sound fun to me. Hey, Dolly, you want to go break some shit? Hell yeah. I come from the Limp Bizkit era where the song is break shit, right? But when you get older, you realize, hey, that's just stupid kid stuff, right? Like, we got all these kids that want to be political, but don't know shit about the world, right? Don't know shit. Don't know nothing. When I was young, I'm going to just speak from my experience. I thought I knew everything. Well, you would have came and talked to 22-year-old Dolly all the way probably up to about 25. I started to grow up around the age of 25. Haha, I love Limp Bizkit, Emmy Joe. Did you know what I'm saying? You would have came with me, Emmy. We would have been out there tearing some shit up, right? I get it. I understand it, right? But it's them days of tearing shit up and breaking shit, them days are over. Limp Bizkit's old. They're 50 now, right? Fred Durst has gray hair, okay? He has a gray beard. That's how old Fred Durst is. The days of tearing stuff up are over. We're all old ass people, right? We don't want this lawlessness. We want to leave this place better for our kids and our grandkids than when we found it. Got to keep on rolling, baby. See, Emmy Joe knows. Rolling. Did it all for the nookie. We did it all for the nookie, right? We didn't care. We didn't care about politics. We just trying to get some booty, all right? But, I guess apparently, we got these young people out here and that outrage. And every now and then, I guess they had to get their paw and their meemaw to drive them out there to the protest, and I don't know. Listen, the whole thing about this, it don't matter how many cities burn, how many people stand in traffic. Immigration is exactly what it is. If you come to this country illegally, we have laws in this country that say you are to be deported. What is wrong with coming to this country legally? That's what I would like to know myself. Why can't people just come here legally to our country? Why don't they put the effort in that everybody else had to put in to get into this country? But like I said, from what's been going on today, it's been a lot more peaceful today than it has been the last few days. We're going to take a little look at that. This channel that's streaming live out there is called, I believe it's Americano Media. I hope I said that right. If not, sorry about murdering your name. But they've been out here live for the last couple days covering the event, and which is good because we get to see it firsthand from the ICE facility live. No sound. Y'all have no sound. Okay, hold on. Maybe I didn't share the sound. Give me 1 second. Tell me if y'all can hear it now.
Is an important wake-up call for the United States president. No president is allowed to make up facts or rely on social media
Give me a
trolling
thumbs up.
or posts when deploying the United States military in our cities. It's an incredibly dangerous precedent to set in America, and today's ruling halts what appears to be the president's attempt to normalize the United States military in our cities.
That was Attorney General Dan Rayfield reacting after a federal judge granted a temporary restraining order that halts the National Guard deployment to Portland. Late yesterday afternoon, U.S. District Court Judge Karen Emmergut handed down her ruling that pauses the deployment for 14 days. This sets the stage for the city and state to move for a preliminary injunction, which has to happen by October 17th before the temporary restraining order expires. A hearing will seek to establish a more permanent, long-lasting order on the deployment of the Guard to Portland. The judge chose October 29th as the date for a trial on the preliminary injunction motion and the merits of the full lawsuit. Meanwhile, the Department of Justice has the opportunity to appeal the decision, which could set the stage for an appeals court battle or even an emergency Supreme Court decision. But for now, the troop deployment must stop. Following that ruling, we're hearing from some of the people who've been showing up to the ICE facility in South Portland night after night. Foxhole's Michaela Armstrong went out to monitor the situation and has reaction from protesters.
A crowd of more than 100 people finding out a judge granted a temporary restraining order, blocking the National Guard from heading to Portland.
But the California National Guard's on the way.
Only reaffirms what he says many Portlanders feel.
This isn't a politicized decision. This is looking at the facts, recognizing that there is no need for National Guard to be coming into this city, and all it's going to do is inflame tensions further.
Some of that tension sparked early Friday afternoon before the ruling came down, when a woman tried to run over protesters before being stopped by PPB officers. Or another moment when demonstrators and a counter-protester clashed, similar to a skirmish that became physical earlier this week involving the same individual. But some say those moments do not reflect everything happening, and they hope this temporary restraining order becomes permanent.
They're manufacturing a crisis here, and Portland has done a really good job in the last week of not taking the bait.
I hope that it ends the notion that they're going to even come at all.
Jamie Ania said she came to counter-protest in support of ICE and says she was disappointed by the ruling.
Disappointment in the sense that we want to kind of have a law and order vibe to Portland.
However, Ania says she can live with it after seeing these protests for herself.
To me, this doesn't feel like a war zone, and I'm a Trump supporter. When I come down here, I know that these people have a strong opinion. I know they're organized, and I wish that there would be some better policing, especially when there's assaults and things like that. But is it a war zone? I don't think so. War zone, I think, is extreme and kind of a rhetoric that drives a lot of maybe hostility or anxiety between the two sides. If this ruling is inferring that it's not a war zone, I would happen for now to agree.
Michaela Armstrong, Good Day, Oregon.
The conflicts between protesters on both sides and federal agents at the ICE facility began with a peaceful march down the South waterfront yesterday. Fox 12's Julia Lopez reports on how quickly the situation escalated.
It took less than an hour for a peaceful march
Immigrants are welcome here.
to escalate with confrontations from federal officers.
This is the Federal Protective Service.
Protesters marched down the South waterfront early Saturday afternoon, ending at Portland's ICE facility. When a nonviolent but sizable crowd grew near the gates,
On federal property is subject to arrest.
Department of Homeland Security officers pushed people out of the driveway and deployed tear gas and pepper balls, moving off the property and into the street.
They came out and told people to get back, but they ended up spraying the tear gas all the way over into where they had told us to originally go, which was a little confusing.
I talked with a couple in their 80s, one bleeding from the head, hit by a gas canister. Multiple witnesses saw another canister thrown under this walker. Throughout the afternoon, the crowd thinned, but tear gas was deployed several more times, often to move vehicles in and out of the facility. Officers also shot pepper balls into the crowd from above at more random intervals.
They started pushing people. In the pushing, I ended up getting punched by a federal agent.
Several arrests were made when officers moved to clear the driveway.
They said they got me on trespassing for crossing a blue line.
Cascano spent hours in a holding cell, still unsure if he faces federal charges.
They swarmed around me, put me to the ground, put their knee on me, gave me a scratch. No, there was no altercation going on, just simply stepping on arbitrary line that they marked.
They're ruining our beautiful city.
Protesters, though, say they're emboldened by the escalation Saturday afternoon.
Everybody just got tear gas, but we're all coming together, just being a community and just showing the world that we're not the war zone.
Julia Lopez, Fox 12, Oregon.
The lengthy 33-page temporary restraining order issued by Judge Emmergut spells out a number of reasons why she believes President Trump's actions to deploy the National Guard are unlawful. Fox 12's Ward Jollis takes a closer look at the order as we hear from local leaders about the implications.
A new temporary restraining order issued Saturday by U.S. District Court Judge Karen Emmergut puts a 14-day pause on the planned deployment of Oregon National Guard troops to Portland, which was scheduled to take place as early as this weekend. President Trump argued last week that the troops were needed to protect, quote, war-ravaged Portland from Antifa and domestic terrorists after weeks of protest at the Portland ICE facility. But in her order, Judge Emmergut called the president's perceptions exaggerated, writing, quote, the president's determination was simply untethered to facts, and going on to say that, quote, his actions undermine the sovereign interest of Oregon as protected by the 10th Amendment.
And today's ruling is an important wake-up call for the United States president.
Oregon Attorney General Dan Rayfield, who initiated the lawsuit against the Trump administration, offered his reaction alongside Portland Mayor Keith Wilson.
No president is allowed to make up facts or rely on social media trolling or posts when deploying the United States military in our cities.
Today's decision reaffirms what we've long maintained: the federal government overstepped its authority.
But the White House disagreeing with that sentiment, a spokesperson said Saturday, quote, President Trump exercised his lawful authority to protect federal assets and personnel in Portland following violent riots and attacks on law enforcement. We expect to be vindicated by a higher court.
We're not going to put up with it. This administration is not playing games.
It comes just hours after the White House posted this new video on X saying this isn't protest, it's premeditated anarchy. The temporary restraining order likely just the first step in a complex legal battle that could have historic implications in the lines between local and federal power. Judge Immergut already making her perspective clear, ending her 30.
Somebody says, is it really that bad in Portland? Well, it's hard to tell because we're really only seeing clips of what's going on in Portland. There has been some fights and some, I would say skirmishes, but at times on the weekend, it was getting pretty rowdy around the ICE facility. And listen, the federal government has the right to protect their buildings, right? Federal law trumps state law. I mean, and the federal government says, hey, you can't be around these buildings. The law says we're going to deport illegal immigrants, and it's people not respecting the law and they're in the way. I mean, so what do you really do? I mean, I can understand both sides' arguments. Hey, this is the law. We got to abide by the law. Some people think the law should be different, but them people have to take the right steps to make sure that the law is different. And that the first step would be to gather your troops and to get out and vote and put people in office that do align with your values and views. And hopefully the majority of the country believes the same thing. But listen, the country spoke. Let's be honest. The election wasn't too long ago. The majority of the country voted for Donald Trump. They did. Like it or not, don't like it. They did. And the views and values that he's pushing is what most people I ain't gonna say that everybody that leans right agrees with everything Trump does, but the basic things I think they do, and they don't really want lawlessness in this country. We're tired of seeing cities burn, and when people don't get their way, they just absolutely cry and bitch and moan and stuff like that. And I think one of the main bowling points where people were like, "This is enough," is when Charlie Kirk was assassinated for his voice. Right? Listen, their voice is important too, but the assassination of this man because he had Christian values in this country, that's pretty terrible for the country to see. And did that hurt them in the next election? I believe it did. I honestly do. That is not how you make change, by silencing and executing people. That is not how you make change, because you can't debate this man. You execute this man. That ain't the way to do it. And people are just over this type of behavior, and they're over the lawlessness. They're over this. And there's people out here that don't support what ICE is doing, but there's a million more people that do support it.